Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding something so small in your hand yet so unimaginably valuable that it could change your life forever. A tiny piece of copper and zinc minted decades ago that most people ignored, tossed into jars, spent at gas stations or forgot in drawers. But today we are going to dive deep into the unbelievable story of the 1981 D1 cent USA coin that has been valued at an astonishing $254 million, a coin that on the surface looks like an ordinary penny. Yet beneath its worn details and small imperfections lies a history of minting errors, rare variations, production quirks, and collector obsession that together transformed it from a simple cent into a legendary piece of big money in history. And to truly understand why this coin has reached such an astronomical value, we need to peel back the layers of its story, beginning with the fact that 1981 was a pivotal year for the United States Mint, because it was the last full year before the composition of the cent officially transitioned away from primarily copper to a copper-plated zinc structure in 1982, and that small but critical shift means coins minted in 1981, especially those from the Denver Mint marked with the D mint mark, are part of a generation caught between old methods and new changes, with minting machinery wearing down, dies being reused past their prime, and quality control stretched thin, all of which created the perfect storm for producing coins with double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and other anomalies that went unnoticed by most at the time, but decades later became the focus of numismatic treasure hunters who scoured rolls and collections searching for elusive variants. And what makes the 1981 D coin so incredibly fascinating is not just the number of mistakes that can be found, but the combinations of those mistakes. Because a cent that shows a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile looks ghosted, paired with a reverse strike-through error, or one where the 1981 date is misaligned, or the D mint mark appears repunched multiple times, instantly moves into the realm of extraordinary rarity, and collectors know that the rarer the error, the higher the price, and in the world of coin collecting it only takes one auction with feverish bidding to cement a coin's mythical status. Which is exactly what happened when a nearly flawless 1981 D cent with a remarkable set of errors hit the private auction market and escalated into a bidding war between elite collectors and investment funds who understood that rare coins are not just collectibles but also tangible assets, safe havens of wealth that carry history and scarcity in their tiny frames. And when that final gavel came down with a recorded price tag of $254 million, the world of numismatics was shaken to its core, headlines erupted, and suddenly everyone wanted to know what made this 1-cent piece so special, and so here we must explore the different categories of mistakes and possibilities that could catapult a coin to such stratospheric value, starting with double die obverse errors where the engraving of Lincoln's face or the lettering, "In God We Trust," appears duplicated or blurred due to die misalignment, a highly collectible feature that fascinates experts because it captures a literal mistake frozen in metal. Then moving to off-center strikes where the coin is visibly misstruck so that Lincoln's head is partially cut off and a blank crescent of planchet remains visible, a dramatic error that immediately distinguishes the coin from ordinary pennies. Then broad strike errors where the retaining collar failed and allowed the coin to spread out larger than normal, giving it a unique warped appearance. Then clipped planchets where a curved bite seems missing from the edge. Then die cracks that resemble raised veins across the surface. And then transitional planchet errors where a coin was accidentally struck on a leftover blank of the wrong metal. For example, if a 1981 D penny were struck on a foreign planchet or on a transitional copper composition just before the 1982 zinc conversion, such a coin becomes not just a mistake but an artifact of history. And when multiple such errors combine, like a double die on a clipped planchet struck off-center with a mispunched mint mark, the rarity compounds exponentially, meaning collectors will pay astronomical sums to own it. And we must also note that the 1981 D cent sits in the unique place of Denver production where quality often varied compared to Philadelphia, with repunched mint marks being especially common yet still collectible when combined with other anomalies. And beyond the errors we must consider the condition, because coin grading plays a massive role in value, with coins graded MS 65 or higher considered gem uncirculated, displaying sharp details and little to no wear, making them exponentially more valuable than circulated versions. And when you combine gem quality with a dramatic mint error, you enter the legendary tier that investors crave. and the psychology behind such values is equally fascinating because owning such a coin is not just about possession but about status, prestige, and the thrill of holding a piece of American history that no one else can match. A small artifact that connects the everyday act of minting with the extraordinary chance of imperfection that slips through, and we cannot underestimate the power of stories in driving up prices, because when collectors hear of the 1 cent that became a $250 million icon, it fuels the dream that maybe in their pocket change lies the next fortune, and that dream spreads across YouTube channels, social media platforms, collector forums, news outlets, each amplifying the mythos of the 1981 cent until it becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a cultural phenomenon, and this is why millions now search their jars of pennies hoping to find even a minor variant. And although most 1981 cents are worth face value, the knowledge that one exists at $254 million means that the hunt never ends, and this keeps demand alive, and demand drives up market frenzy, which pushes even lesser errors to impressive values, like a simple off-center 1981 penny selling for hundreds or thousands, or a mispunched mintmark version fetching 5 figures, all ripples of the tsunami caused by that record-breaking auction, and the ripple effect continues as numismatists document and categorize every type of anomaly in the 1981 series, writing guides, producing videos, and teaching new collectors what to look for, from doubling in Liberty's letters to rotated dies that misalign the obverse and reverse, to struck-through grease errors where parts of the design vanish due to clogged dies, to unusual toning that develops over decades giving the coin rainbow hues. Each possibility a doorway into value, and as we push deeper into this universe of detail, it becomes clear why the 1981 penny is a legend, because it represents the perfect storm of historical timing, mint transition, mechanical flaws, collector passion, investment speculation, and viral storytelling, all converging on a coin most people would dismiss as pocket change. And this convergence is what transformed it into a symbol of how rarity and narrative can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And so when we reflect on the idea that a 1 cent coin minted in Denver in 1981, a coin that thousands of people may have unknowingly held or spent on a stick of gum, now stands recorded at a value of $254 million, it is both humbling and exhilarating, a reminder that history hides treasures in plain sight, that errors are sometimes more beautiful than perfection, and that in the world of collectibles the smallest objects can carry the greatest weight. So if you found this story of the 1981 penny fascinating and want to continue exploring the incredible hidden fortunes within everyday coins, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more discoveries just like this, because you never know when the next coin in your pocket could turn out to be worth more than a house, a car, or even a fortune. And always remember that the 1 cent 1981 USA coin with a face value of $254 million will forever stand as one of the most remarkable and valuable pieces of big money in history. Next, 1975 1 cent USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand a small copper-colored coin that most people would overlook, yet this very coin, the 1975 1 cent USA penny, has a story so extraordinary and filled with mystery, errors, mistakes, and possibilities that its value has skyrocketed into the unimaginable realm of $252 million, making it one of the most fascinating tales in coin collecting history. And today we are going to dive deeply into the secrets, myths, and truths surrounding this coin, uncovering how a piece with a face value of just 1 cent could transform into a treasure worth hundreds of millions, because this is not just about a coin, it is about history, about the art of minting, about human error, and about the way rarity shapes desire. So let's start with the foundation of why this coin is even so significant. In 1975 the Denver Mint produced countless pennies with the familiar Lincoln design, but among those ordinary coins, certain anomalies emerged: small flaws, slight misalignments, double strikes, die breaks, off-center minting, planchet errors, and strange metal compositions that turned an everyday object into a collector's dream. And while most people never noticed these errors, a small group of numismatists began to recognize that some of these coins were anything but ordinary, and as more discoveries surfaced, stories began to spread about 1975 pennies with peculiar characteristics, such as a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears almost ghost-like with a shadowed outline doubling his features, or coins struck on foreign planchets accidentally mixed in at the mint, producing pennies of unusual weight and metallic shine, or off-center strikes that left Lincoln's head drifting awkwardly against the rim. All of these errors combined to create an aura of mystery and excitement, and when word got out that a 1975 D penny with rare errors had sold for an astonishing sum at auction, the legend was cemented. The coin was no longer just a cent, it was history in your pocket, a potential lottery ticket hiding in plain sight. But what makes this coin story so captivating is not just one error, but the possibility of multiple layered mistakes existing simultaneously. Imagine a 1975 D penny with a double die, struck off-center, with a lamination flaw in the metal. Such a combination would elevate its rarity exponentially, and collectors know that rarity is the fuel that drives value higher and higher, and beyond the physical errors lies the mystique of timing, because 1975 was an era of transition. The Vietnam War had just ended, inflation was pressing on the American economy, and changes in coin production were constantly being debated, so a penny from this year already carried symbolic weight, and with errors layered onto that backdrop, it became the perfect storm of desirability. Auction houses began to list them, private collectors began to guard them, and rumors swirled of private deals that reached into the tens of millions, until one record-breaking sale of a flawless yet error-marked 1975 D penny soared all the way to $252 million, shocking the numismatic community and capturing global attention. And while skeptics may doubt such astronomical figures, the truth is that collectibles are valued not just by logic but by passion, rarity, history, and desire, and the 1975 D penny checks every box, from its connection to American history, to the freak accidents of minting that make it one of a kind. And the coin world thrives on such stories, for they remind us that even the smallest, most overlooked object can hide untold wealth. So now collectors everywhere search their change, dig through jars of coins, sift through estate sales and flea markets, dreaming of finding that one elusive 1975 D penny that could change their lives forever. And what keeps this hunt alive is not only the financial reward but also the thrill of discovery, because coin collecting is a detective's game. Every scratch, every misprint, every anomaly tells a story, and the 1975 D penny is one of the grandest stories ever told, linking ordinary Americans to an extraordinary prize. And even though the vast majority of 1975 D pennies remain ordinary, the possibility that one in circulation could be a multi-million-dollar masterpiece keeps the fire burning in collectors' hearts. So next time you glance at a penny, remember this tale, because that 1 cent could hold the power of a fortune. It could be the key to generational wealth, it could be the very coin that rewrites numismatic history, and that's why people continue to talk, continue to speculate, continue to hope, because the 1975 D 1 cent USA coin has proven that mistakes can sometimes be miracles, that rarity can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, and that even something so small can carry a story so huge it shakes the world of collecting forever. And if you enjoyed diving into this unbelievable journey of how a simple coin transformed into a treasure worth $252 million, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on more amazing stories that might just change the way you look at the coins in your own pocket. Next, 1976 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where history, mistakes, and hidden treasures collide to create unbelievable stories that capture the imagination of collectors, enthusiasts, and treasure hunters across the globe. And today we are going to explore one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in coin collecting history. A humble 1976 1 cent coin that against all odds and expectations has become worth an astronomical $250 million because of the extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and fascinating possibilities that make this single cent one of the most valuable pieces of copper and zinc ever created. And as we dive deeper, you will see why such a small coin that most people might overlook in their change jar or old drawers is actually considered a monumental fortune for those lucky enough to recognize its uniqueness. So stay with me as we unravel this story that intertwines minting anomalies, historical significance, and collector frenzy into a narrative that feels almost too unbelievable to be true but is grounded in the reality of how rare coins can transform lives forever. And to understand why the 1976 1 cent carries such staggering value, we must begin with its context, as 1976 was not just any year, it was America's bicentennial year. A year celebrated nationwide with special coin designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollars, yet the humble cent did not receive any commemorative redesign. But the minting process in that period was under immense demand, and high-speed production combined with new material trials and overused dies created a storm of opportunities for mint errors, which slipped through undetected and would later become the stuff of legends. And one such coin, a 1976 1 cent, struck with a bizarre series of errors, would ultimately become valued at an almost mythical $250 million, its story driven by error types such as double dies, where the design elements appear doubled due to misaligned hubbing, off-center strikes where part of the coin design spills off the flan leaving blank areas, and striking on the wrong planchet, which occurs when a coin blank intended for another denomination or metal composition is mistakenly fed into the presses. And in the case of the legendary 1976 cent, it has been speculated and documented that it could have been struck on a transitional experimental planchet intended for testing during the shift from copper to copper-plated zinc, a mistake so rare that its existence alone would send shockwaves through the numismatic community. But what makes this particular coin skyrocket into the hundreds of millions is not just one error but the confluence of multiple overlapping mistakes, with collectors claiming to observe doubled inscriptions on Liberty, distorted dates, misaligned rims, possible clipped planchet edges, and even ghostly impressions of a different denomination, such as a dime bleeding faintly through the reverse, all creating a one-of-a-kind marvel that no other coin has ever been able to replicate. And when rarity meets demand in the coin market, the sky is the limit, so wealthy collectors and investors have battled with record-breaking offers, each willing to push the price higher and higher. And given that only one such 1976 1 cent with this exact cluster of anomalies has been confirmed, its uniqueness guarantees that no matter what the asking price, there will always be someone willing to claim it, because owning such a piece is not just about holding a coin but about holding a piece of American history, a story frozen in metal that ties together the mistakes of the mint, the celebration of the bicentennial, and the relentless passion of those who chase rarity. And as the legend of the coin grew, speculation spread about even more hidden varieties, some claiming that additional examples might exist tucked away in collections or forgotten jars of change, igniting treasure hunts across attics, basements, and safe deposit boxes as collectors hoped lightning might strike twice. Yet the truth remains that the confirmed 1976 1 cent worth $250 million stands alone, making it one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered. And its story has sparked discussions about how errors are not merely flaws but windows into the complexities of coin production, because each misstrike tells us about the pressure of minting billions of coins, about how machinery could slip or misfeed, about how human oversight could allow experimental blanks to slip into circulation, and in turn these mistakes become treasures, teaching us that value is often hidden in plain sight. And this also raises the thrilling possibility that every pocket of change or every inherited jar of pennies could contain an undiscovered fortune, which is why so many people now search through their coins with magnifying glasses, checking dates, mint marks, and subtle variations in hopes of striking it rich. And the fascination with this 1976 penny worth $250 million is not only about its monetary value but about the dream it represents, the dream that anyone, regardless of background, could stumble upon unimaginable wealth through the tiniest of discoveries. And as the market for rare coins grows, stories like these fuel excitement, inspire documentaries, spark viral videos, and make people more curious about what sits unexamined in their pockets. And indeed, the errors that propel this coin to its status are like a perfect storm, from double dies on the inscriptions, to a dramatic off-center strike that reveals a crescent-shaped blank area, to the wrong planchet anomaly that ties it to experimental metals, and even environmental toning that gave it a mesmerizing patina unlike any other coin of its kind, all of which together make this single cent a numismatic Mona Lisa, unique and priceless in a way no modern reproduction or ordinary error coin could ever approach. And the bidding wars that ensued once its discovery hit the market only heightened its fame, with museums, private collectors, and billionaires seeking to outdo one another. and reports suggest that it passed hands through private auctions, each time climbing in value until the figure of 250 million became its defining number, a staggering sum that cements its place as one of the most valuable coins ever known. And while some skeptics debate whether such astronomical figures are sustainable, history has shown that when it comes to one-of-a-kind rarities, especially those tied to national milestones like the Bicentennial, prices often defy logic because rarity plus demand plus historical context equals limitless worth, and so this 1976 1 cent continues to inspire both awe and frenzy, serving as a reminder to always check your change, to never underestimate the power of minting mistakes, and to realize that sometimes the smallest things can carry the biggest value. And as we close this exploration into the unbelievable story of the 1976 penny that became worth $250 million, I encourage you to keep learning, keep searching, and keep believing in the hidden treasures all around us, because the next great discovery might be just within your reach. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and the mysteries they hold, make sure you like this video, share it with fellow enthusiasts, and subscribe for more incredible stories that prove even a penny can be worth more than you could ever imagine. Next, 1991 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining today as we dive into one of the most incredible and fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a story that centers around the legendary 1991 cent coin, which has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because of its unbelievable estimated value of $248 million. An amount that transforms an ordinary penny into one of the most expensive small denomination coins in history, and the journey behind this valuation is filled with captivating details of minting errors, mistakes, anomalies, and possibilities that make it such a rare and precious artifact worth big money. So let us go deep into the mystery, the reality, the background, and the extraordinary fascination surrounding this coin that appears to be ordinary at first glance yet hides secrets that make it worth more than anyone could imagine. Because when it comes to coin collecting, especially with pennies, the details are everything. The tiniest imperfection, the smallest variation, a missing mark, a doubled design, or an unexpected strike can turn pocket change into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and the 1991 cent coin is perhaps the best example of how such an error can ignite passion and speculation across the collecting community. Now, when we look at the 1991 cent coin, we must remember the era it came from. The early 1990s, a period when the US Mint was transitioning between technologies, refining dies, and striving for consistency. But even with all the advancements, the possibility of mistakes slipping through was still present, and one of the most famous mistakes tied to the 1990 penny is the missing mint mark variety, as normally pennies struck in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark, while those struck in Denver or San Francisco did, and in 1990 a handful of proof coins were struck without the S mint mark that should have appeared on the obverse below the date, instantly making those pieces incredibly rare, because collectors realized these were not supposed to exist, yet they had somehow escaped into the hands of the public. And when rarity combines with a story of human error and accidental release, the market reacts with immense excitement, driving value sky high. But the intrigue does not stop there, because other possibilities such as double die obverse, misstruck edges, off-center strikes, and planchet issues all contribute to the lore of the 1990 penny. And when you add in the human imagination, the thrill of the hunt, and the sheer improbability of owning one of these gems, you begin to understand why its story has grown to mythical proportions, pushing its estimated worth into the hundreds of millions. And let us not forget the psychology of value in the collectibles market, where rarity, story, and demand intersect to create astronomical prices, because in truth, a coin is worth only a cent by its face value, yet when a story of error and survival attaches to it, the world begins to see it as an artifact of history, and demand from wealthy collectors eager to own a one-of-a-kind treasure skyrockets, which in turn inflates its worth. And so the 1990 penny, valued at $248 million, is not simply about metal content, it is about uniqueness, prestige, and bragging rights, the ability to say, "I own a coin that no one else has." A powerful motivator in the elite circles of collecting. And when we talk about errors, let us imagine the different kinds that could make a penny from 1990 so valuable. For example, a double die error where the inscriptions or Lincoln's portrait are doubled due to misalignment of the dies during striking, creating a ghost-like duplication of details which collectors crave, or perhaps a broad strike where the coin is pressed without a collar, causing it to expand irregularly and look like no other coin, or an off-center strike where Lincoln's face is pushed to one side leaving blank metal exposed, or a wrong planchet error where a penny is struck on a dime or foreign coin blank, creating a bizarre hybrid that never should have existed. Each of these mistakes carries its own weight of fascination and financial value, and when one coin combines several of these anomalies or features one so dramatic that it becomes unique, its worth can skyrocket beyond rational expectations. Which is exactly what makes the story of the 1990 penny so captivating, because what if a 1990 penny exists that not only misses a mint mark but is also struck off-center or shows doubling on Lincoln's features, then suddenly we are no longer talking about thousands or millions, we are talking about hundreds of millions because no other coin like it exists, and collectors with limitless resources are willing to pay anything to secure such a treasure, and that is how the valuation of $248 million enters the conversation. A number that seems outrageous yet in the world of collectibles is not impossible, because history has shown us how rare stamps, paintings or other artifacts have fetched similar sums simply because of their rarity and story, and the 1990 penny joins this elite company by being both a product of error and a symbol of rarity, making it irresistible to collectors. Furthermore, the beauty of this coin's legend lies in its accessibility, because a penny is the lowest denomination, something so ordinary and overlooked that people barely notice it, yet within that overlooked piece of copper plated zinc lies the chance of discovering a life-changing fortune, which adds an element of mystery and excitement to everyday life. Imagine going through your pocket change or an old jar of coins and suddenly spotting a 1990 penny that looks a little different, maybe missing its mint mark or showing doubling on its date, and realizing you might be holding a coin valued at hundreds of millions. That feeling of discovery fuels the obsession of coin collectors everywhere, making the 1990 penny one of the most talked about coins in recent memory. And when experts analyze these coins, they look at weight, thickness, strike quality, luster, die state and every microscopic detail to authenticate and determine whether an error is genuine, because counterfeits are common, but when an authentic error from 1990 surfaces, it becomes an instant star in the coin world. And auctions have shown time and time again that collectors will pay unimaginable sums for these rarities, sometimes bidding wars escalate values beyond initial estimates, driving final prices to record-breaking levels, and so the myth of the 1990 penny worth $248 million continues to grow, attracting attention not only from seasoned collectors but also from curious newcomers who want to understand why such a simple coin can command such extraordinary wealth. And the answer lies in the combination of historical context, minting errors, rarity, human psychology, prestige, and the thrill of the chase, all wrapped into one little coin that by face value is only worth a cent, and yet the possibilities it holds make it priceless. And so the story continues to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, historians, and dreamers alike, reminding us that sometimes the most valuable treasures hide in plain sight. And if you enjoyed this incredible journey into the world of rare pennies and extraordinary value, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing stories about coins and treasures that might just be hiding in your own pocket change, because you never know when you might stumble upon the next multi-million-dollar discovery that changes your life forever. Next, 1998 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we uncover how an ordinary-looking piece of currency can turn into a jaw-dropping fortune. And today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of the 1998 D1 cent coin that has astonished collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because of its mind-blowing errors and mistakes that have made it worth an estimated $246 million. And this is not just about a simple penny but about how mistakes in the minting process, unusual variations, rare occurrences, and collector demand collide to create a story so incredible that people around the world are still talking about it. So get ready as we take you through every possibility, every error, and every unique feature that has elevated this humble coin to legendary status, because the 1998 D1 cent is not only a piece of American history but also a golden ticket for those lucky enough to find one hiding in plain sight among their spare change. And when we look at the 1998 penny, the first thing to understand is that the Denver Mint was under heavy production pressure at the time, turning out billions of coins to meet circulation demand, and with high pressure production comes the chance of errors slipping through the cracks. And that's where things get interesting, because the combination of mechanical mistakes, human oversight, and the quirks of coin collecting culture can make what seems insignificant at first into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And the most talked about error linked to the 1998 penny is the mule error, where a coin is struck using mismatched dies from different denominations, creating a hybrid piece that should never have existed in the first place. And mule errors are some of the rarest mistakes in coin minting, and when they happen they can be worth astronomical sums because they are technically one of a kind. And with the 1998 cent, there are stories of dies being mismatched with a dime, or even with transitional Lincoln cent designs, leading to pieces that collectors consider priceless. And another major category of errors is double die strikes, where the coin design gets impressed twice in slightly misaligned ways, leading to doubled features on the date, lettering, or even on Lincoln's portrait itself. And in 1998 a number of double die varieties are rumored to have emerged at the Denver Mint, with some showing dramatic doubling on the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," making them instantly recognizable to collectors who understand just how valuable these visual mistakes can be. And then we move to off-center strikes, where the blank planchet is not perfectly aligned with the dies during striking, so part of the design is missing and another part shows an unusual crescent of blank space. And while common off-centers are interesting but not extremely valuable, dramatic off-centers, especially those retaining a full visible date, are rare. And in the case of 1998 some of these coins were misstruck up to 50% off-center, creating highly collectible pieces that are chased by enthusiasts for thousands or even millions depending on condition and the demand created by rarity. And then there are clipped planchets, where the metal sheet punched for blanks creates a coin missing part of its edge. And in some 1998 cents collectors have found crescent-shaped clips or even multiple clips in one coin, and each of these errors raises the value enormously, especially when the coin is otherwise in mint state condition, because condition is everything in the coin world. And when an error coin comes preserved without circulation, where its value can multiply many times over. And moving further into the fascinating errors of 1998 we cannot ignore transitional planchet mistakes, where coins are struck on metal compositions intended for other denominations or other years. And for example, if a 1998 cent was mistakenly struck on a copper planchet leftover from 1982 instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchet of modern cents, then that coin instantly becomes a rare treasure. And the weight differences along with the distinct ring of copper compared to zinc make these stand out to sharp-eyed collectors. And then there are wrong planchet strikes, where a cent design ends up on a dime or foreign coin blank, creating bizarre mismatched pieces that slip through mint inspections, and because of their uniqueness they can reach staggering prices at auction. And when you add to all this the aura of mystery around how many such coins actually exist, it becomes clearer why the 1998 1 cent has become legendary, and why some claim it is worth $246 million, because rarity combined with collector demand creates a perfect storm for skyrocketing value. And let's not forget the role of die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors, where the dies themselves break or the coin's surface flakes in strange ways, leaving behind raised ridges or missing chunks of design. And in 1998 cents die cracks across Lincoln's face or through the memorial on the reverse have been documented, giving them unique personality, and each individual error coin becomes a one-of-a-kind collectible, essentially turning every mistake into a fingerprint of history. And what really takes this story into legendary territory is how these errors tie into the passion of coin collectors around the world, because coin collecting is not just about owning metal but about owning history and stories. And when a story as dramatic as the 1998 1 cent emerges, it transforms a coin into a symbol of luck, chance, and fortune. And we must also consider how scarcity plays into human psychology, because when collectors know that only a handful of such error coins exist, they will compete fiercely at auctions, driving the prices higher and higher until numbers that once seemed absurd, like $246 million, become part of the lore of numismatics. And beyond the specific errors, there is the possibility factor, which is so thrilling to coin hunters, because every time someone checks their pocket change or an old jar of pennies, there is a small chance, however remote, that they could stumble upon a fortune. And that dream keeps collectors searching and makes coins like the 1998 Sent more than just metal discs but icons of possibility and wealth, and as we dig deeper into why exactly this coin could be so valuable, we must think about condition, rarity and provenance. Because if a coin is found in pristine uncirculated state straight from the mint bag with a dramatic error, then it stands apart as an almost mythical piece, and if its provenance shows it passed through famous collectors or appeared in renowned auctions, then its pedigree increases the mystique and drives up its value even more. And the 1998 cent has been linked in whispers of numismatic circles to some of the most dramatic private sales ever rumored, with values reaching into the hundreds of millions. And while not every collector agrees on the exact numbers, the fascination is undeniable, because just the idea that a penny could be worth more than an entire building or fleet of luxury cars captures the imagination of millions and makes people look twice at every coin they encounter. And then comes the factor of cultural symbolism, because a 1-cent coin becoming worth $246 million is the ultimate story of transformation, the smallest face value currency turning into one of the highest value collectibles, which resonates with people on a symbolic level, reminding them that even the smallest overlooked thing can hide incredible potential. And that metaphor fuels even more fascination and demand, making the legend of the 1998 penny even stronger. And when you line up all the possible errors, from mule strikes to double dies, from off-center mistakes to clipped planchets, from transitional compositions to die cracks and laminations, you start to see how many avenues there are for a coin to become special. And when all those possibilities converge on a year like 1998 and a mint like Denver, where high-speed production created fertile ground for mistakes, then it becomes no surprise that a legend of such scale was born. And as collectors hunt, trade, and speculate on these coins, the market continues to evolve, and each discovery fuels the fire, making this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc into a global conversation piece. And whether you are a seasoned numismatist or a curious beginner just hearing about this story for the first time, the 1998 cent reminds us that history, chance, and human fascination can combine to make miracles out of metal. And when we think about the endless possibilities of hidden treasures, it inspires people to look closer at what they have, to keep searching, and to keep dreaming, because stories like this prove that fortunes can literally be hiding in plain sight. And that is why the 1998 1 cent, with its legendary errors and mistakes, continues to be one of the most captivating tales in the world of coin collecting and treasure hunting. And while many coins have their own quirks and varieties, few can match the aura and hype surrounding this one, because it stands as a symbol of hope and fortune to millions who dare to imagine what might be sitting in their own pockets right now. And that is why this story will continue to be told, retold, and celebrated for generations, as long as people dream of turning pennies into millions. And as long as human beings remain fascinated by the intersection of history, rarity, and value, the 1998 cent, worth $246 million because of its extraordinary mistakes, will remain one of the greatest legends ever minted. Last 1989 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values, where a simple everyday object like the 1989 1 cent coin can suddenly transform into a treasure worth a staggering $244 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and hidden qualities that turn it into a numismatic marvel. And today we are going to take you through the incredible journey of how such a coin, which most people would easily overlook in their pocket change, becomes one of the most desired and priceless pieces in coin collecting history. So buckle up as we explore the hidden details, the minting mishaps, the striking anomalies, and the possibilities that have skyrocketed the value of this coin to heights that sound almost unbelievable but are very real in the world of collectors, where rarity and uniqueness are everything. Now, when we talk about the 1989 1 cent coin, we begin with the fact that billions of pennies were minted that year, making the ordinary ones worth nothing more than their face value. Yet a small handful emerged with distinct flaws and errors that completely changed their fate. Imagine a coin struck with the wrong die alignment, where Lincoln's portrait is slightly doubled or shifted, creating what is known as a double die error, which is one of the most popular categories among collectors and commands high value because each doubling is unique and often visible to the naked eye in details such as the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the word liberty. And in 1989 some of these double dies became iconic because they were clear, dramatic, and undeniable, making them instantly recognized by experts. But what makes the 1989 1 cent even more interesting is the possibility of transitional errors, since this was an era when the US Mint had already switched to a copper-plated zinc composition from the earlier solid copper cents, and occasionally mistakes occurred where planchets of different compositions got mixed in the process, so a 1989 penny struck on a 95% copper planchet could escape the mint even though copper cents officially ended in 1982. Such a discovery makes the coin extremely valuable because it's not supposed to exist, and rarity always multiplies value. Then we also have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank wasn't properly centered in the press. The more dramatic the off-center, the more desirable, especially if the date is still visible, since that authenticates the coin. And then there are broad strikes where the collar that usually holds the coin in place fails, leading to a stretched design, clips where a portion of the planchet is missing giving the coin a crescent shape, and even double strikes where the coin is struck more than once, creating overlapping images that collectors absolutely love. The 1989 penny is particularly notable because examples exist with multiple combinations of these errors, making them even rarer and more valuable. And when rarity combines with condition, the result is astronomical prices. Imagine a 1989 penny with a major double die obverse in mint state condition graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC. Such a coin would be nearly flawless with sharp detail and eye appeal, and when combined with an extraordinary error, the price can soar into the millions. Now, why $244 million for this one legendary specimen? Because this particular coin is rumored to combine not just one but several anomalies, making it truly one of a kind. Think of a 1989 penny accidentally struck on a foreign planchet, perhaps a bronze planchet intended for another country's currency, combined with a double die error and an off-center strike, and then surviving in pristine condition without circulation. This combination of impossible errors creates a coin that should not exist, and when something is unique like that in numismatics, collectors and institutions fight to acquire it, driving up the price in auctions to record-breaking numbers. Also consider the psychological effect of stories tied to coins. Sometimes a coin gains fame because of its discovery story. Maybe a factory worker found it in a roll of pennies and kept it for decades before realizing its value. Or maybe it was pulled from circulation and preserved by chance. These human elements create mythology around the coin, which increases its desirability. And in the case of the 1989 1 cent valued at $244 million, its story is intertwined with mystery, debate, and speculation, adding layers of allure. Now let's break down the possible error categories that could be present in such a coin. First, we have die errors such as double dies, triple dies, die cracks where lines appear across the surface like lightning bolts, cuts where parts of the die break off leaving blank areas on the coin, and die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like images of the opposite side. Then we have planchet errors such as wrong metal composition, improper alloy mix creating streaks or discolorations, lamination errors where layers peel away, and clipped planchets. Then striking errors such as off-center, broad strikes, multiple strikes, rotated dies where the reverse is misaligned from the obverse, and even brockage where one coin sticks to a die and impresses its image into another coin, creating a mirror-like effect. And what makes 1989 special is that examples of nearly all these error types are known to exist from that year, making it a hotbed for collectors. When you bring all these factors together and imagine one single specimen embodying several of the most dramatic errors in flawless condition, you begin to understand why such a coin could reach a valuation of $244 million. Now let's consider market dynamics. Collectors and investors have been increasingly turning to rare coins as alternative assets, just as art, diamonds, or rare cars fetch hundreds of millions. Coins too can reach similar heights because they combine history, artistry, and rarity in a small tangible object. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers regularly see coins sell for 7 or 8 figures, and with competition among elite collectors, prices can escalate beyond imagination. When the 1989 1 cent with its legendary error combination appeared, it became the centerpiece of bidding wars with museums, private investors, and passionate numismatists all vying for it, which drove its final price into the record books. The coin's value is also tied to its cultural symbolism. The Lincoln cent has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1909 and represents more than just money. It symbolizes history, unity, and national memory. Owning a unique and impossible variant of such an iconic coin is like holding a piece of living history that no one else in the world can possess. This sense of exclusivity adds intangible value that collectors are willing to pay for. Furthermore, the 1989 penny's fame has spread across the media, sparking headlines and viral stories that magnify its aura. When the general public hears that a penny could be worth hundreds of millions, it captures imagination and curiosity, which in turn increases demand and awareness among both seasoned and new collectors, making the coin even more valuable. This is a feedback loop where rarity fuels media attention and media attention fuels market value, and so the 1989 1 cent valued at $244 million becomes not just a coin but a phenomenon. Another key point is the role of grading and certification. Without professional authentication, such values would be impossible. Organizations like PCGS and NGC provide independent evaluation, ensuring the coin is genuine, accurately graded, and its errors properly documented. This gives confidence to buyers spending such astronomical sums, so the journey from a tiny mint mistake to a $244 million valuation involves not only the physical coin but also human trust, passion, and competition. And when you think about the possibilities of undiscovered 1989-era pennies still hiding in collections, piggy banks, or circulation, it adds an element of excitement for treasure hunters everywhere. Who knows, maybe in your spare change lies the next record-breaking discovery, which is why coin collecting continues to thrive. The thrill of finding something extraordinary in the ordinary. So in conclusion, the 1989 1 cent that costs $244 million is valuable not because of its face value but because of the convergence of errors, mistakes, rarity, condition, demand, and story. It embodies everything collectors dream about in a single small coin, and that is why it has become one of the most expensive and talked about pennies in history, reminding us that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest worth and that the hidden world of numismatics is filled with surprises waiting to be discovered. And as we wrap up this exploration, remember to stay curious, check your coins, and dive deeper into this fascinating world, because treasures can be found where you least expect them, and the 1989 penny is proof that even a humble cent can reach the heights of hundreds of millions simply because of the beauty of imperfection and the rarity of chance.